Cause I'm about that. Cause I'm about that. I'm about that come up, running up on them fools that are talking foolish. Try to get them funds up, killing the mic just like I ran and Jules in. Y'all gonna get done up front, knowing that kid with an attitude, but you can't really blame this motherfucker for what he had to do. I'm about that cash flipping, I'm getting it on and off the market. Not about that VIP, not me, not never been a fan of carpets. All about that RIP for all of my Jesus gone departed. All about that finish what I started, I'm about that.
Top down like you're not ready. We ride, we about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night. Down like you're not ready. We ride, we about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night.
Know that I'm about it. Want a man I can bring the drama, but it ain't by chance that I'm fucking rapping. You don't really want a problem. Made a little cash in the back end, but still rapping like homie starving. Yeah, y'all gotta ask who the man is. Hope I'm gonna be like, beg your pardon. Homie, I'm about that.
Top down like you're not ready. We ride, we about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night. Down like you're not ready. We ride, about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night.
Yes, we do. We own the night, and we own this Thursday as well. Welcome to the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yoakley, Eric Bailey, the wonderful Anthony Malone, and then we have the dynamic duo of Jeff Bezos and Quinn Pushkar. A little bit of a romantic setting here, boys. We go from having the Brady Bunch to Foursquare here from all over the globe. EB, let's just start out things. You were listening to the DeWine press conference at 2 o'clock. There were high expectations for this, and even before we get to our national whatever day it is, this is headline news, which is literally turned out to be nothing in regarding to sports. Your thoughts immediately.
Disappointment. I mean, I think I said earlier this week it's not going to happen until next week, and that's kind of been the MO so far. They kind of create some hype and then they let it go. I listened to him talk about lead and paint and how it's still in the schools and it shouldn't be. He went through the numbers, kind of school district numbers, what they're looking at. It wasn't. I mean, it was a typical story time with DeWine, so it was rather disappointing. I think a lot of people were hoping to get some sort of answer today, or at least direction as far as what's going on with sports. You've seen the tweets from Husted. You've seen even DeWine kind of chime in and say, he wants to have sports, and that's the direction they're kind of taking. But we haven't gotten anything from it. So here we are again. Hurry up and wait, and we'll see what next week comes.
I do have some breaking news here. Governor DeWine announcing that he'll have a decision on Tuesday regarding high school sports in the fall. Is that too close for comfort, considering some of these schools have soccer starting as soon as next week? Jeff and Quinn, your take, please.
If you're going to do anything about it, you had to do it today, because like you said, you have sports, you have soccer starting next week, and all those kids worked hard all off season and did whatever you had to do. And but Tuesday you're going to pull it out from underneath them, and that's not right.
Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what's going to be said, I think we're agreeing with it that it's going to get canceled next Tuesday. But yeah, it's extremely late in that situation, and not just for football. I mean, granted, football will have still a week and a half to figure some stuff out, but like Jeff said, soccer's starting up. I mean, I was talking to my sister about it, and she plays soccer at Canfield, and she was saying that they're preparing for a season, and if it gets canceled on next Tuesday, it's already basically the season would have already started.
So let me ask you this. One of the bigger things, and we'll get to Ty and Anthony here right after this little twist I'm going to bring into it. Columbus City Schools, public schools, canceling their extracurriculars that included their sports today. Ohio State, the Ohio State University, one of the biggest institutions in our entire state, canceling their football and fall sports. How does the OHSAA validate not canceling the football season given the current situation of things that have already kind of taken place. Anthony, we'll go to you.
Well, based on your statement that you made right there, I mean, think about it this way: if we're making these different color graphs for what county is worse, Columbus isn't a red county, considering whatever that color graph may indicate. Whether that gets better or not, that's I think what they're leaning towards when it comes to that type of a decision. But for me, when I'm looking at it, yeah, today I would have loved to have heard today. It seems like we're going to get down the 11th hour and we're going to make a decision then. I can also appreciate letting it go a little longer to make that decision. Maybe they're still trying to lean towards making it happen. If that's truly the case, that's awesome. But I would prefer to have a little bit of preparedness. It's going to be hard to see by the 11th hour if anything's changing, because nothing's changed. It's a solid trend every day when we hear from Governor DeWine that it's 1,000 cases, and it's been that way for a few weeks now. So what's going to change to make that happen? I don't know.
So what's interesting to me is all day I'm receiving text messages, calls, emails that a decision is going to be made today, that there's going to be breaking news, that it's going to be greenlit, that all of this stuff, speculation, as we get into it, and we'll roll into another topic here in a moment. But Ty, I know you were getting the same conversation, some in the same circles, and you were getting some of the same notes. Were you disappointed when nothing, absolutely nothing other than we'll talk about it Tuesday came out of this press conference?
Oh, of course it's disappointing. And I mean, if it's disappointing for us, you got to imagine how disappointing it is for these kids. Because it's like, you feel like the inevitable is happening, right? You feel like the cancellation of this season it's inevitable at this point, because I don't think you would announce something that far ahead if you were going to have the season as a go. I feel like that would be something that you would have made a decision on today. You wouldn't wait until the last second to make that decision and pull the plug. And I feel like, especially since OHSAA is saying, like, everything's a go, everything's green light. Like I said, they backed the governor into a corner, and the governor has to make a decision now. I think he's just pushing it off to the last possible second to try to avoid making that decision. But I think it's going to be the inevitable. Like I said, I mean, I feared it for the longest time, but like I said, I thought that we weren't going to have a season this year, and I really think that's what's going to happen come Tuesday.
Now, I guess you made an interesting statement saying he's waiting to make a decision. He's waiting to the last possible minute. Do you think he's waiting to make a decision, or do you think he's waiting to limit the alternatives that other people are going to bring to the table? Let's kick it back that way. Since it was your question, Ty, we'll go back to you.
I mean, that's also a good point. I think it could be either or, because Anthony said too, like, you want to wait till the last second to make sure nothing else comes up to where you could have a season. But I also think that the alternatives, he's trying to make sure that there is no alternatives to it. I think he's just trying to make sure that he's, or at least in his mind, that he's making the right decision here by canceling the season, and he doesn't want to have any other outs or anything come of this.
Anthony, when you look at it, I mean, there's limitations already in place, but you have baseball, softball, tennis, golf, and volleyball that have already been approved. Is the governor trying to make sure that, since OHSAA backed him into a corner, so to speak, he's trying to do the reverse shuffle back to the OHSAA?
I mean, that's what politicians are known for doing, is kind of flipping and waiting until, usually on Fridays is the worst news in a lot of politics. You'll always find if they want to get, bury it in the weekend news, that's usually the good tactic to wait for. Maybe they're trying to make OSHA make the decision on their own, because eventually they might have to if he doesn't say a word about this. But I think because they asked for his recommendation and are looking for his recommendation, he will give it. What he will give is the great question. It doesn't seem like he's hesitant to cancel anything. However, maybe he is on this occasion, because it's so widely beloved in Ohio is the game of football.
I think real quick too, to comment on what you said, Anthony, and what I thought was actually really interesting about the whole scenario too, is we talked about it maybe a couple weeks ago about how DeWine was saying about all these protocols that need to be put in place for these high schools to make sports happen, the testing, the temperature checks, and all that. And we talked about how we didn't see how some of these schools would find it feasible, how they wouldn't be able to afford to do that. And then the OHSAA came out and said, all right, we're able to do it. It's a go for these schools. And I don't think he was expecting that answer. I think he was more or less expecting them to be like, we can't afford it. We can't have a season. But now that they're saying that they're having a season, it really flipped it on him. And now he's forced to try to make a decision now.
And maybe that's the prime example as to what we're going to experience on Tuesday. Maybe he's going to say, well, we'll evaluate next week too. We'll let it go on.
So here's some interesting. Did anybody catch the 640 special last night on WFMJ with Dana Balish and and Bo Ruck? When you look at it, everything that was said was very, very positive. He gave the OHSAA was, we have positive news coming out tomorrow. We got the green light, and then it was almost like a tidal wave, guys, of everybody kind of chiming in to support their narrative one way or the other. It was a great interview. Dana did a great job, and courtesy of OHSAA and Bo to be able to step up and take some of the spears that have been thrown at them, and essentially trying to stick out that olive branch and say, "Guy, we're here for the right reasons." My takeaway from it, though, was that we've heard this song and dance before, where the OHSAA sets us up on this pedestal for really, really good news, and we all know what happens next. A lot of times they're setting themselves up to look good, so that way when bad news comes out, they're the ones that look like, well, we tried, we were the heroes, we did everything we could. Quinn, do you feel like, given the scenario last night in the 640 special on WFMJ with Dana Balish, the OHSAA took advantage of a situation where they were trying to get out front once again of the governor in the state of Ohio?
I mean, yeah, I guess. But, it's like Billy said, it's a no-win situation. If no matter what happens, no matter what comes of it on Tuesday, one side's always going to be mad. You're not going to win in this situation.
Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, it's the same with Quinn. If he comes out and cancels it today, the people are like, well, he canceled it too early. If he comes out and cancels on Tuesday, he canceled it too late. So everyone's going to be mad. So, let everyone be mad and figure it out. It is what it is.
Dynamite drop in, Monty, as always. We're on to you, EB. Your thoughts on this? You and I talk a lot, and we talk kind of the same frequency when it comes to setting up and dropping the ball. And I think the OHSA has set up the state to drop the ball and to drop the big bang on everybody.
I don't think the OHSAA cares. More or less, they're going to get the corona relief anyways. So just like you said yesterday, that's why they set aside the 7-week playoff series. So that way, if that doesn't happen, they're going to get reimbursed for all that stuff. If they're waiting to announce next week, I think they're just doing it, one, for a couple things to limit any loopholes schools can find to open up scrimmages or practices or anything like that. And that's just on the football side of things. And if you break it down to the numbers, you can't go. The numbers have been consistent for the past 2 or 3 months. So that's kind of, to me, that's a variable that really should not have an effect on anything. And outside of that, right now, dude, you have volleyball programs in their 3rd and 4th scrimmage. So they're amping up for in the next week or two. I know Quinn and I deal with this a lot with our AAU girls. These girls, this Friday is a lot of their 3rd or 4th scrimmages. So they're prepped, they're geared, they have their pictures, they're ready to roll. Same with these football programs. They're now the 2nd week of 2-a-days. So this week would generally be where they're doing their scrimmages. So I can see them prolonging until next week, just so no one tries to, pull a quick one and says this is an intra-squad scrimmage and, we're doing something like this. But really, I don't think the OHSAA cares, because they have it slotted out that, hey, here's our 7 weeks of playoffs. If we do not have it, we're still going to get paid through the state through this. And if we do have it, we're going to be taking the money from the pockets of the people because they're fiending for it. So I don't think they really care too much.
So among the rumor mill, and Anthony, we'll get to your take because you watched the special as well. Among the rumor mill was 15 to 20% attendance in the stands, which goes about to 1,500 tickets to be sold or to be had one way or the other. And you also had, limitations on travel. Usually, you were going to get the home band was going to be there. I don't remember if or when he said anything about necessarily about cheerleaders and the allowance of cheerleaders, but you have to believe, given that they're not an OHSAA sanctioned sport, it's a club activity, that they don't really have any say on that. It's basically what it came down to was OHSAA pointed to the schools and the districts and said, you can do whatever you like because you're the one that's going to be footing the liability. Your thoughts, Mr. Malone?
Well, I mean, think of it this way: OHSAA, they're nothing without sports, right? So
Correct.
You would assume that they want to move forward and make sports happen. I think they were trying to give some guidelines, but I mean, no one. It's passing the ball around. Who's going to make the final decision? But they are. It seems like in what we saw, they are in favor of trying to make something happen and gave as many guidelines as they could. It was surprising to hear that they were interested in limiting fans. I thought they would probably say no fans, and that would be something we would hear, but we didn't hear that. I think that they are going to try to make it happen, but at the same time, they might be in the background just hoping for somebody else to step up and make the decision for them.
If they do say limited fans for the first 6 weeks, can they go back on their word in week 7 and open up the gates to the playoffs and say everyone or 60, 75% are welcome? Ty, what are your thoughts? And if that is the case, is it a good idea?
I mean, I guess it just kind of depends on where the numbers are and where everything is with the health of players and the health of the surrounding areas. I mean, I was surprised as well that they were going to allow any fans at all. But I mean, you also got to remember that they're a business at first, and they got to make sure that these schools get revenue so they can keep them on board as well. And that's going to be, at least it's not going to be nearly what they're used to as revenue, but I mean, 15 to 20% at least gives them something. Revenue wise, I mean, I guess the best answer is it depends. I mean, if the numbers are down and they feel like it's a good idea and safe, I could say open up the gates. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I mean, you just get more revenue for these schools and you help these schools out that are struggling, not having that revenue or not going to be getting that revenue from sports this year. But I mean, it all depends. That's kind of how this whole situation is. It's always like we'll see kind of basis, honestly.
If you think conspiracy theories are bad now, wait till you limit the ability of a school or district to generate income via ticket sales, and you open up week 7 and you allow however many, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100% of people to walk through that gate, and the schools don't get any of that money. It all goes to the OHSAA. You want to open up the doors for conspiracy theories, it'll be a witch hunt at that point. You have to believe, right, EB?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially as you get deeper into the playoffs and you utilize these larger stadiums. If you're talking about money scheme, there's your money scheme. Like when you go and you utilize, well, I don't know if they'll be able to use places like InfoCision up at Akron or, Stambaugh. But even if you get into these high school stadiums that seat, a place like a Massillon that has 20,000, and now you can go 70% capacity, and schools are going to sit there and turn around and be like, hold on, I could only have 1,500 people, but now I'm allowed to have 16,000 people for you to profit off of this. They just open up a can of worms that, I don't know. Would I put it past OHSAA to do it? No, not at all. Do I think they should? Look, if you're going to have your message as this throughout the whole year, keep it consistent and say, hey, this is how we did it. We were fair across the board. It wasn't about the money. It was about the safety. And you just ride that out.
If you're a school, let's say, it's Malone High School, and this happens to you, how are you feeling as an AD or an administrator or a superintendent that you were kind of, I don't want to say bamboozled because that's not the right word, but let's just be honest and say that the shake wasn't so fair. Anthony, how would you feel about, being limited all year, and then week 7, anybody can go in and watch your team play football, but the money doesn't go to you?
Well, that's one thing. I mean, allowing your fans to actually show up to the game is a great thing to help out your players and your students. But my biggest thing as an AD, or if I had my own school, how do I pick who gets tickets? How do I find a way within those 6 weeks to make it fair and make it available for parents to see them and students to come to the game, and also fans of our community that support us throughout the year? What is the mess that they have created to say, let's make this the bourbon barrel hunt throughout all of the United States to find my way of getting a ticket?
And I answered that question earlier today in one of our meetings, and I said, here's your answer. We make things real easy on you. YSN. If you're limiting tickets, the games are still available on YSN, whether they would be pay-per-view or free or audio or video or whatever it is. This is our platform, and this is why we do what we do, so you don't have to necessarily get to the game. And if you're limited on ticket sales at 1,500 and ticket number 1501 wants to go to the game, here's your opportunity to watch it right here on the network. We welcome in the beach bum himself, Mr. Paul Munson. Welcome, sir. We appreciate you being here. Thanks for showing up. It's well, I guess you are on Myrtle Beach time. So, what's your take? I mean, were you able to hear anything about the DeWine press conference? If you didn't, there wasn't a whole lot to learn. But the speculation was something was to be said today, and surprise, surprise, nothing was said.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Him and Fran were out taking walks, and he didn't get to take notes. No, I mean, just to kind of go off of what Anthony was talking about there with letting tickets with fans and stuff. From my understanding, at least like where we are, I say we are, where I am at South Range, they were going to let it to the football parents first. The football parents were going to get first dibs at them. They were only going to have 1,750 tickets for the entire season, and you had to buy the entire 10-block season. So you're going to buy all 10 games, but now it's only 6. So now it's even better. It's only your league games. But you have 3 home, 3 away, and it was going to be football parents only after they were done, and they were only allowed to buy 2 apiece. And after that, then you were going to allow it to open up to your school, and then if there's anything left after that, then it goes to your public.
Before we get to our next topic, I just want to point out Billy McCartney. It's the Hunger Games, not the Hungry Games. This is.
I beg to differ. I'm naturally hungry all the time, so the battle to get food is forever.
Anthony, I'm with you. I'm with you, buddy.
The other option for handing out tickets, I guess, is you make Jeff Bezos decide who gets the tickets, and that to me would be very interesting. Jeff, what would your take be if you were the ultimate judge on handing out tickets?
First come, first serve. Whoever wants them comes and gets them, and we run out. It's not your fault. It's not our fault. That's the tickets that we get.
And apparently,
first come, first serve.
That was autocorrect. Billy's going to blame autocorrect for the Hungry Games. We might have to have one of those if we don't have fall sports. We might have to have the Hungry Games right here on YSN. And, of course, Billy Mack would be leading us in the charge. Guys, I mean, this is a very – well, first let's get to – we never got to our national day. It is National Left-Handers Day. And I pose the question to you, who was your favorite left-handed sports person of all time? Because we all know our favorite left-hander. Well, it's Quinn, but for me, it's my wife. Let's go with EB to get us started.
Sports person, this one's tough. I mean, for someone that I grew up watching, I'm going to go Michael Redd from Ohio State. Played with the Bucks. He was always someone that I like to watch personally, and then outside of that, who I got to watch and play with up at Akron, not for Akron, at the rec here and there, would be, I'm going to go a hometown hero, the Southpaw outlaw, Romeo Travis.
All right. I see you. All right. We'll go over to Jeff and Quinn. I think Quinn's probably got to vote in for himself, but we'll start with Jeff to see what's going on there.
I would go with Paul O'Neill because he played for the Yankees and was a pretty good left-handed bat. There you go.
Go Yankees.
Go Yankees.
Quinn, go ahead.
Contrary to your belief, DJ, I will not say myself. But it was Ken Griffey for the longest time. I was always a big fan of Griffey, as much as I hate baseball. Something about Ken Griffey was just kind of magical to an extent. But
how can you hate baseball and like Ken Griffey Jr.? Ken Griffey Jr. is baseball.
Just leave me alone. And the second guy, it's another baseball guy, Jim Thome.
Another baseball player.
Yep.
Imagine that. All right,
I
Beach
hate-
Bum, your favorite left-hander of all time.
My favorite lefty to watch was the big unit. Just watching him out there sling that rock was awesome. But locally, a friend of mine, Aaron Walker down there, EP guy.
I can appreciate that. My former teammate, Ty Bartell.
I'm torn between two. Currently, I'm a huge fan of James Harden's for left-handed in basketball, and before that, another all-time favorite is Admiral David Robinson.
The Admiral makes an appearance. Anthony Malone.
Well, I mean, Quinn kind of stole both of my logical answers.
jerk.
I am
He does
also
that.
I'm left-handed, so obviously I've heard the name of Jim Thome, and for me, that's probably going to be my choice. So,
All right. I mean, we were only supposed to do one, but Quinn plays by his own playbook, and he took two, but we're both baseball players instead of a basketball player, which we usually get the when we
You
ask.
yelled at me for going with Bailey on everything.
Yeah,
Michael
yes.
Red was a stud.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of left-handed basketball players that you could have said before
Not good ones.
we got. Oh, so
Brandon Jennings, really? Please.
David
Go
Robinson?
man. Go.
Pardon?
This might be a dumb question. Was Rocky Marciano left-handed?
I don't know.
I want to say he was.
Rocky Balboa was.
Balboa was left-handed.
Rocky Balboa.
That might be where your flashbacks are coming from.
No, I just looked it up on the
One of those drunken nights.
Say him.
Mine is gonna be to me, he's the best baseball player of all time, and nobody's ever gonna tell me different. It's Barry Bonds. He was the ultimate left-hander. Whether you say that he's juicing or not, I don't care. You still have to make contact, and it doesn't necessarily affect the distance that you hit a baseball. So Barry Bonds is my favorite lefty of all time, outside of my wife, naturally. Thanks, Jeff. I see you we can see you. You realize that, right?
Listen, you don't understand. Jeff is behind me making pirate noises at Paul the entire time. I'm trying not to laugh over here, but he just keeps being pirate back here.
The ultimate Giacomo in the G Burry Farm studio. We're going to take a break. When we come back, still a lot to talk about. We're not over this OHSAA conversation, not by a long shot. There's still a lot to talk about there. We are going to talk about, would you rather start at a small Division I school, and when I say small, it's outside the Power 5, or would you rather be a backup on the Power 5 and compete for a championship? We're going to get your take and why you feel your take is the right take. Now, all that and the G Burbick Farms, What's Your Beef, coming up in just a little bit on the YSN Power Hour.
Your teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers family.
Storm season,
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
and Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air,
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
online,
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
on social media, and on our app.
The inner showers I'm keeping my eye on in parts of Columbiana County.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
And welcome back to the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yokley with you, along with Eric Bailey. Jeff, well, he's not there. Then we'll go with Quinn Pushkar. On to the Beach Bum down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Paul Munson, Ty Bartell, and Anthony Malone, the real American. Guys, before we hit the break, I asked you, would you rather start at a school outside the Power 5 in Division 1, or would you rather play backup to a Power 5 possible championship contender? EB, this is your baby. How you going to rock it?
I was just kind of curious, and I thought it brought some good talking points as I hear the waves crashing in the background.
Yeah, we're going to mute him.
I thought it felt like I was on that Calm app real quick. So I thought about this, and especially dealing with some players going to college, it's always a discussion as far as, do you want to go to a good, bigger school to where you're probably going to wait, or do you want to go to a smaller school that might not be as well and you're going to play right away? My personal take is I think I would want to go to the bigger school to where I might have to wait a year or two, but I'm going to compete for championships. One, not only because of the competition and what it's going to drive to get better, but also it seems to me you're going to settle a lot less because there's always going to be a new crop coming in who's just as good. And I look at someone like UConn to where, you have to do so many little things as far as your energy, your body language. You have to work before you get into practice, after you get into practice, take care of your diet, everything else, because you're probably going to have 5, 6, 7, 13, I don't know, however many All-Americans Gino brings in the next year. So it's always going to push you to be at the highest level of competitiveness that you can be at, opposed to, and this isn't discrediting anyone who goes to, a YSU Akron, Ken, anything like that, because I love the small school basketball. But sometimes I think if you're good there, you never reach your full potential because you're not pushed as hard as you would be outside of just inside those lines.
I can agree and disagree with a lot of those points. Who wants to take the ball next? Any volunteers? All right, Paul, go ahead. We'll mute you here.
Unmute me. Thank you. Appreciate that. It all depends on how big your ego is. If you have a big ego and you think you're a superstar, then you're going to go to the smaller school where you're going to play immediately and not have to worry about it. Myself personally, I would go to the bigger school. Enjoy that atmosphere of being at a Power 5 conference, playing for maybe a national championship or a division championship in your league and going to big bowl games. I definitely do that. Even if you got to sit a year or two, I think that'd be pretty awesome to do that instead of being at like some small school and you're playing. And don't get me wrong, that's why you're there to begin with. But, what are you playing for? To maybe get to some schlub bowl or playing for some, crap league. No, I'd rather go to the big boys.
Ty Bartell.
I'm actually going to be opposite with everyone. I would enjoy actually going to a smaller school and kind of feeling like the underdog. I like the whole underdog mentality of everything. If it's still Division 1, you're the underdog, and if that school believes in you and they want you to start, I'm all for it. I would know one thing for sure. I definitely would be loyal to that school if they took me and started me.
Anthony?
Well, for me, at least from my mentality, I'm 5'7". I was 150 in high school. So anyone who gave me the opportunity to play, I was going to go there. But that of course didn't happen in that case. But if I had to choose, if a team is interested in me playing at their school, if it's a large school, I want to compete. I want to go to the place where I'm going to be able to play and compete the best I can from day one. If I have to sit, I sit because I'm not ready to get on the field. But as long as I get that opportunity to play, I'm all about it.
I'm in that same boat. I'll give my argument here in a minute. Jeff Bezos.
Both are good, but I'd rather go to a smaller school because you actually, like Paul says, what are you playing for? Well, some of those smaller schools rely on going to the small bowls, and it makes their program better. Because look, we went to a bowl game this year. We won 6 games. We won our bowl game. And if you're a good player at that small school and dominate in a bowl game or dominate all season, you just put your tapes out to try to transfer and try to go to a bigger school. And if they look at you and go, "Wow, that kid's a kind of hidden gem," and then you go there.
Quinn?
I'm completely opposite of Jeff. I'm going big time. A lot of that. I mean, I'm a competitive guy, and that competition that's at that level, you're playing at the highest level. Why wouldn't you want to be there? If you truly believe in yourself, like I would believe in my talent, I'm going to want to go play with the best, compete with the best, and if I have to outwork somebody to make a spot, then I'm going to do so. So the competition level is it's the highest level, and that's where I want to be.
I saw that comment, Billy Mack. That was directed at you, my man. Don't worry.
Who, me?
No, Billy Mack. He commented about the loyal thing. I was like, that was a little jab at him. He got me back.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to have a debate, Billy. We will.
Listen, I'm on the side of starting right away. Like, there's no guarantees in 2 years. Like, I don't think a coach will come into your home and say, hey, we're really looking at signing you and having you part of our program, but you're not going to play for 2 years. There's a lot that can happen in that 2 years that doesn't go your way. I'm going to start as fast as I possibly can and try to do everything I can to make those big schools that didn't want to start me from the jump, make them kind of rethink their choices, I guess is the best way to put it, the most politically correct way. I want to play. Like, I want to play. I want to compete. I want to be that guy that on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon, I'm going to be the guy that is a difference maker, a game changer. You can't do much from the sidelines other than cheer, and if you're going to do that, you might as well have pom-poms. So that's where I'm at. Any second takes on this?
So even if you go to a bigger school and they say you're not going to start right away, wouldn't that just fuel you to get even better? Like if I was being recruited between Ohio State for football and we'll say Akron for football, and Akron said, you're probably going to start right away. Or Ohio State said, hey, look, you have 2 or 3 blue chips in front of you. That's just going to drive me to work even harder. So, I mean, I can see what you're saying, but I also think you take that same concept and you take it to a bigger school. And if you're that good, you know, to where I think a lot of these college coaches will just lay it out flat for you anyways, and they're not going to promise a starting position or anything like that. You know, you might have to buy a time, especially if you're going D1, whether you're going Akron, Kent, Ohio State, Nebraska, wherever it is. Odds are, I think, well, Billy Mack just said you're not going to play D1 anyway. Like, you're not going to play right away. You have to be fairly special to play. But I think even if I know I'm going to sit a year, or even if I'm not, I'm going in with the mentality I'm going to outwork anyone anyways. And that's how a lot of those guys are wired. You know, I kind of start to take it. It's sort of like the Jordan effect, the Kobe effect, that Mamba mentality. I take it personal to where I'm just going to outwork you regardless.
I can get behind that, but I would also ask you this. How many players have you seen outkick their coverage, so to speak, join a team that they were probably not going to play or not be a primetime player for a couple, maybe 3 years, and didn't make it out of the first year? They never came back. Because ultimately, you know, right? You know that you're going to go on. You have a little bit of a big head because as seniors in high school, you're treated with a little bit of cushion, are we not? And
right.
then you come out of school, you graduate, and all of a sudden you're at the bottom of that ladder again. And man, that was a tough 4 years to climb that ladder and get all the way up for some of us. Some of us are starting our freshman years at the varsity level because you are special. But I think most people will realize the second they get out of high school that you're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. The best players on the best teams are now on your team. And yes, the competitive balance is you're going to have to prove yourself all over again. But if you know you're going to start as opposed to you know you're not, I think there's an extra drive. You know, there's an overdrive that you kick yourself into. Like, I have the ability to play as opposed to cashing it in for the first couple of years. You know what I mean? And saying, okay, I'm not going to play. If there's 3 blue chip prospects ahead of me, the chances of me playing are slim to none, and Slim just left town.
And also, I think there's something to think about is how often do you find a program that's actually going to have all coaching staff for the same 4 years? You may be beloved by your recruiting coaches that came in that were coordinators, and then 2 years from now when it's your time, what if they don't like you anymore? And that's not to say that somebody plays favorites, but we do know that happens. That's something to think about. I want the opportunity that I can make to get on the field. That's the back of my mind. I hear stories all the time from players that go on to at the next level. It can happen. If you are a new coordinator or new position coach, it can happen.
Billy is really dialing in here from a digital standpoint. He's usually a part of our show, and I don't know why he's not, but he's obviously, again, not listening because the argument is you're a D1 player no matter what. Do you go to D1, a small outside the Power 5 conference, and start, or do you go Power 5 and compete, you'd think, each year for a national
What
championship?
happens too if you go to that Power 5 conference, you wait your 3 years, you finally have your chance, and a quarterback transfers there. That's already NFL ready. And then you lost your position after waiting all that time.
You mean like a quarterback would transfer from one school to another because there's no loyalty?
Yeah.
And what? Wait, but you worked your ass off for 3 years, Ty. What happens then?
Yeah. Guess it doesn't matter. No loyalty.
Huh.
I hear if that happens to you, you end up on the Bengals, though. So that's not a bad thing. Yes.
It's not awful. But this is exactly what I was trying to lean towards. Is yesterday Billy was at the forefront, and yeah, we're gonna poke you because you're not here today, taking the day off from the Power Hour, so you get to eat the 60 minutes of crow. If you work your ass off for those 3 years, there's no guarantees because, here comes pandemic, here comes Justin Fields, your ass is out. Bye-bye scholarship. Maybe you should have picked Akron. Anybody from that non-loyalty standpoint from yesterday want to pop out?
I'll jump in on that. I'll protect Billy. I mean, if that's what you're worried about, don't be an athlete. Honestly, don't be an athlete. Don't compete. Play chess. Sit at home. Don't be an athlete because you're just as likely to catch corona. You're just as likely to blow out your knee. You're just as likely. There's all kinds of factors into that. So
I agree.
Yeah, there's people who are going to transfer in and transfer out all the time. You might be one to transfer from that Power 5 to the next Power 5 because there's an open position at quarterback and you fill in better and quicker. So the shoe always fits on the other foot too. But if that's in your forefront as far as loyalty, first of all, it's sport. There's hardly any loyalty in sport to begin with.
There was a guy I'm trying to figure out. There's a picture of him somewhere. He was pretty loyal. I'm not talking about Jeff, and I'm sure not talking about Quinn. But the guy behind is Chicago Bulls legend. He was pretty loyal, was he not?
Yeah, until he played for the Wizards.
He was loyal to competition and competing and winning.
He was loyal to his coach.
Yeah, but they kept that.
Yeah, he was real loyal to
greatest player. I mean, who was he? He could have went anywhere. There's a reason that he set up his contracts the way that he did. I mean, obviously the Bulls, for what they paid him, weren't exactly loyal to him because he made $2 million a year until his last 2 years. So I mean,
I'm just gonna put this out there. MJ had the chance to go with the big boys, right? If we're talking D1 of sponsorships, what was it? It was Converse, and he chose the other route.
You remember Michael's first coach, right? The one he was actually loyal to when he didn't want Phil Jackson.
Hold on, time out. Here's what the point I'm trying to make is if I can go and make my name somewhere and my name shines a little brighter because I'm at a college full of Joe, Dick, and Harry or whatever, Tom, Dick, and Joe or whatever the comparison is there. Tom, Dick, and Harry. Thank you.
Who recruited you, DJ?
What's that?
Are you sure? Who recruited you?
Westminster.
Are you sure that was a school whenever they sent you the letters?
Ohio Northern. Reality is, if you can go and make a name for yourself and you're positive, the eye in the sky doesn't lie, right? Like you're gonna still have a 4.4 40. You're still gonna have be able to sling the ball 70 yards. You're still gonna bat 520. You're still if you're good, the tape will find you, right? At this point now in society, this point now in technology, where we're at, if you're good, they're going to find you wherever you are. And there is
absolutely
a zillion opportunities and examples of this in the NFL.
Yep.
A national championship, there's only one winner. And guess what? If I'm an athlete, and you said it best, EB, if this is a sport and I'm an athlete, the brand that matters is DJ's brand. When I'm leaving high school and I'm going to college, I'll wear whatever college is going to be loyal to me and put me out in front, and I can back my teammates up at whatever. But I'm in what's in the best interest of DJ Yoakley from that moment.
Right. I mean, and a lot of these kids, I sit there. So we'll take Nate Fryer, Tanner Hoffer. We'll even go Alexa before she realized she couldn't play. Even Molly, a couple of these girls, I tell them all the time. I go, you're not competing against the girls in your league. You're competing against these girls in the nation. So, Mount Union, IUP, Westminster, all these Point Park, they have open court to recruit whoever they want. Yep. They can go all 50 states, 7 continents, whoever. So you're not competing against the girl in the AAC. You're competing against the girl in the ABC over in Massachusetts, because she's just as good, if not better. So when you compete, you better bring it as far as that goes, because it is your brand. It is about you. And then when you do make it to that point, be proud of yourself. You're allowed to be proud of yourself. There's something to be said to be humble. Absolutely. And I'm all about being humble, but also I'm not saying brag and boast yourself, but also be proud of yourself when you make it that far, and you're allowed, because you're the one who sweat. You're the one who busted your ass. You're the one who put in the work to get there. And it's all about your brand, and it's going to be your brand throughout that college career. Now, you might transfer because that college career or whatnot doesn't fit your brand anymore, or fits your style, or coaches leave, this and that. There's so many variables. But, be proud of who you are. I look at people like Jordan, Kobe. They're the exception to the rule, especially now in today's society, because it's a cancel society. It's what's the next best thing for me. Kobe was probably, when it really started to kick off, he was finishing up in the 90s. A lot of those guys, the 80s, 90s, they were definitely loyal to one brand. But even look at some of these quarterbacks getting drafted. Well, I'm going to take Eli Manning. That dude did not want to play for the Chargers and sat there and pissed and moaned until he got to play for the Giants.
John Elway.
We could probably list 10 different people right now.
He also played for the Yankees, which makes him a scumbag.
Hey, EB, by the way, just to fix your note on that about Eli Manning, it was not him, by the way. It was his dad.
Oh, well.
His dad came out and said we would not
Eli
play.
Probably had nothing to do with that, right?
Too.
No. Archie. It's all about Archie. Archie had 100%.
Because Eli said, Dad, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, Dad didn't want him to go there, so he was going to listen to his dad.
Yeah, okay.
He was a grown-ass man. He was
Pipe man.
Was Archie's name on the signature line for that contract?
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It wasn't Archie's decision. It was Eli's.
To comment on both about your brand. You can, to an extent, it's about you to an extent going to college, right? But no college recruit's going to recruit you if it's all about you. It's all about what you want to do. And I understand about that. That's what it is. But that college recruit's coming in there, you have to be a team player. So it's about the team too at some point, right? To be all about you, I understand a couple kids I would, if I was getting recruited by Ohio State and Urban Meyer was the coach and Urban Meyer got fired and I didn't like Ryan Day, I would probably transfer out, but that's thinking about me. At the time, I'm thinking about the team, right? When did you have to think about the team before you transfer out?
To go what DJ's saying and what I'm saying though, Jeff, it's if that's your only option is that you have to sit and you have to work behind, then that's it. But I'm just saying, if it's a choice between here, you either go to this school and you sit for your first 2-3 years, or you go here and you start and you have your opportunity right off the bat, I'm going to go there and start and get my opportunity right off the bat, because if I never get my opportunity at the big school, I never have a chance to make it to the NFL.
Yeah, then when you run into Urban Meyer at Subway, or Ryan Day at Subway, and they go, aren't you so-and-so from so-and-so college? Fancy seeing you here. And then you start a dialogue, and then all of a sudden you're on Ohio State. I'm always going to bet on me. That's sports, that's whatever. I'm always going to bet on me. That is always going to happen, because I believe in myself, no matter what it is. I don't care if I'm playing Quinn or LeBron James. I'm going to bet on DJ Yoakley. That's what it's going to be. You can bet against me, that's fine, but I'm going to give it my damnedest, and I'm always going to bet on me. So if you're telling me that you would rather go and sit for 2 years and compete for a national championship and maybe start down the line, but maybe you're also turn into a gen ed studies major and you buy a ticket for the other 2 years, are you really betting on yourself? Are you really saying that you can compete? If you're now, the argument isn't are you competing? The argument is, do you want to start immediately for a smaller school, or do you want to ride pine for 2 years for hopefully a ring?
Well, no, like I agreed with you before. Like I would rather go to a school and start and show my tape and show who I am. And
who's to say you don't go for a national championship?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you go to a smaller school, but some of those smaller schools live on going to the smaller bowl games. Like you don't think Eastern Michigan, as being a small school, want to go to a bowl game? That's not a big kick up for their program. That's not like helping their program out.
Who was it? Central Florida a couple years ago that went undefeated and claimed the national championship.
Yeah, because they didn't play anybody.
Well, you know what? I would do the same thing. I'm a national champ. Nobody beat me.
You went
they played all D1,
nobody,
so.
and were too scared to play Alabama or LSU. You don't deserve a national championship. Go play one. Play for one. Back it up and play for one. Plain and simple.
Okay. I mean, that's a take. I mean, you can only beat who the athletic director schedules and who's in front of you.
Then don't claim you're national champion.
Why not?
Because you don't have that trophy.
So let me ask you this, there, hard ass. If you're Cheney, if you're Cheney and you're up against, let's say, I don't know, Akron St. V's, and they didn't beat you, and you're one of 6 teams left,
but
can you claim a state championship?
No, you didn't win.
Why not? You didn't lose.
But you didn't win it.
But you didn't lose.
But you didn't win it. You have to win it to be the champion. If you go undefeated, whoop-de-doo. Hawaii went undefeated back in 07 or whatever. And
then they're the 07 co-champions.
That didn't mean they were national champion. They did not raise the championship trophy. You are not a champion unless you raise it. Plain and simple.
I got to agree with Quinn. You don't win the national champion, you're not the national.
How does that make you feel, Quinn? That guy is
if
backing
you don't win,
he just agreed with you.
You are not a champion. Plain and simple. You're not.
Yeah, you have to win the national champion to become the national champion.
Raise the glass
to be what, the national champion?
Raise the glass football and you're a national champion. If you don't do it, you're not a championship. You're just not. Plain and simple.
Get him, Quinn.
So that's
okay. So what was it, a couple years ago when Ohio State didn't make the playoffs, but everybody was claiming that they would be a national champion?
Good for them.
National champion?
They didn't. They lost. Plain and simple. They lost.
Lose 2 games that season.
You lost.
You're not an Ohio State fan, so this doesn't regard you.
Ohio State fans all that season, and I understand. I heard what they said, and my argument was: don't lose 2 games. Don't lose by 34 to Iowa at Iowa after beating Michigan, Penn State at home. Don't lose to 34. Don't lose by 34. Ohio State would have made it in with 1 loss. Guaranteed, one of the best teams in the country that year, but they had 2 losses and they didn't make it in. Did they win the national championship? No. They're not national champions now.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, Jeff. But Ohio State fans, they could beat Alabama every time they get eliminated from the playoffs, if you ask them.
But the Ohio State fans are Ohio
But you don't win on hypothetical. I mean, hypothetically.
But unless you play, it doesn't mean anything.
Right. And I'm an Ohio State fan. I would say, yeah, we can claim whatever, but we didn't play the game. We didn't take care of the business that we needed to take care of to get to that situation to win that game. So we can claim and bank on hypotheticals all we want, but until you're
the coach
on the field and you win and the clock hits 0 and you're the victor, I'll sit there and claim last year the national championship game was probably Ohio State Clemson in the semis, but we didn't beat Clemson. Granted, bogus calls, this and that, and a third. It doesn't matter because you still didn't take care of enough to become victorious afterwards.
Okay. I can appreciate it. I'll take the L on this one. You guys came together and put it on. I appreciate it. Any other last takes on this one before we turn the page real quick to another topic? Nope. All right, here we go. This is a big one. This is one that's running the rumor mill. Does the NCAA need a commissioner? because of all the drama that is unfolding in college football with the Big Ten is not going to play, the Big 12 is going to play, the Big Pac-12 is not going to play. Does the NCAA finally need a commissioner to say, you, shut the hell up. We're playing or we're not playing. EB, take it.
Oh yes, they've needed a commissioner for years, man. And this stems back to, 2010, 2005, whatever recruiting violations, selling, little gems that you've won. It's a perfect business setup for the NCAA. You don't have anyone who says yes or no, but you control everything around you that can happen. Your labor is free, and you're nothing but profit off of that labor. It's essentially, as bad as it sounds, it's essentially legalized slave labor, because you have these kids who, until this past year, could not profit off their name. You profit off of them, and if they do try to profit off your name, you take away the one thing that they're there to do, because now they are quote unquote, not being like a typical student. Well, they weren't recruited to go to that school to be a typical student. Hell, these kids can't even hold a full-time job because they play, they're under scholarship, and that would give them, extra, I don't know, money or incentive or an unfair advantage because their school's paid for. So you definitely need a commissioner, not only just for Corona, but, the easy thing for all these presidents to do was say no. And there was no one leading the charge. This should have been the year if the NCAA wanted to separate themselves and say, hey, we got this going on. They had 5 months to figure it out, and they didn't do a damn thing. They just sat on their hands. They shook their head and said, oh, well, we'll go with what you guys decide. So if you have someone in charge to make a decision, then I think you at least start to push the ball one way or the other. And outside of that, I mean, even for the past umpteen years, 30, 40, however long it's been around, they've needed to have someone in charge, because now they get to make rules as they go, and they profit off of free labor. So they need someone to sit there and lead the charge and say, okay, this isn't right. And even if it's not a commish, then make it some sort of committee or something.
Director, yeah, I can agree with that. Beach bump.
Don't they?
Sorry.
Isn't it ran by a committee right now anyway? Like, isn't it the committee's in charge or whatever? Isn't that who's in charge at all?
Sort of, but sort of
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
All I'm gonna say is, Bailey, you have my vote. 2021 NCAA commissioner.
And you also get Jeff's vote, because they're piggybacking off each other and literally piggybacking each other in that studio.
We haven't seen Jeff's left hand in a while.
We're on to Munson. What are your thoughts?
I agree with the commissioner. I mean, they should have one, because then, and not to pile on, but everything falls on that guy's shoulders then, because the NFL's got Roger, and all the teams have to abide by what Roger and the league says. And even though the owners kind of run Roger for the most part, those are his bosses, just like a school and the superintendent kind of thing. But to have a commissioner, he could come out and he could squash all this the way this is going right now. And he could say, listen, we're not playing football in the fall. It's done across the board, everybody over, and not have 2 say no and 3 say yes and see what happens. And you're gonna have it's just almost like the Wild West a little bit. Nobody's coming out to say across the board one big thing, and that's where they need one person to be the spearhead of that and say, I'm the boss. This is what we're doing, and this is how it's going to be. You can take their the consideration of those other teams and the leagues and stuff, but overall, they need one person to make that decision and just shut things down or let things roll. One of the two.
And that one person should be Michael G. Scott from The Office, the NCAA commissioner. A quick take from Ty and Anthony before we move on to our G. Burbick Farms. What's your beef? Ty, go ahead.
The quickest way I could put it, I do a commissioner if it's a good commissioner and they have good standing relationships. If you don't want someone like a Rob Manfred type commissioner with the NCAA, especially if it's a new futile state, you want someone good. You look at the good commissioners. You look at guys like Adam Silver and how he is with the NBA, and he has pretty decent relationships with the teams in the NBA. And Goodell, as much flack as he gets, he still has pretty good communication and good relationships with a lot of these teams. You want to get a commissioner in there that's going to have good standing relationships with these teams and be out for not only their best interest, but for the fans' best interest as well.
So you're looking for a moving target is what you're looking for. That's the comparison. Anthony, go ahead.
For me, the quickest take I can give, you need a commissioner per each sport, in my opinion, because they need to have some sort of stake or love for the game. In my opinion, because in my case, you wouldn't want somebody who is like Robert Manfred, who doesn't really like baseball to begin with, but he's a commissioner for one of the biggest leagues in the entire nation. You want a commissioner that has some love for the game.
Interesting that Billy keeps throwing the loyalty thing under the.
And yes, we would, Billy. We would.
I'm really interested about loyalty and a guy that went to high school in Newton Falls and coaches Ursuline. So that, I mean, not to bring it up again, but it is what it is.
Billy, I will be back Monday. I'm hoping you're there because we can have a debate about this Monday.
Yeah,
Here's the thing. Hey, maybe Newton Falls didn't want him, and Ursuline was his only job he could take.
Well, I mean, Ursuline's, let's just face it, Ursuline's not a bad, there's not a bad job out there, but I mean, my man is just crushing loyalty. I mean, I'm just saying that when you look at our brand, it's one of our 3 pillars. So I'm going to defend loyalty. It's what I built my whole life around. Unfortunately, maybe that's not the case in McCartneyville, USA, but I digress. Let's go to our G. Burbick Farms. I'm all pissed off now. I'm back on track. We are on the G. Burbick Farms. What's your beef? Anthony, it's been a minute since you've been here. Let's hear your beef today.
Well, I don't have a legitimate beef today, but I do have a shout out that I need to make. A shout out to Carter Kellgren, committed to YSU today. He's one of the linemen at the Poland High School on the football team, and made a great year last year. Was able to transition that and make it into a commitment at Youngstown State. So congratulations to him.
Very cool. Our first ever positive beef. I like it. Ty Bartell, go ahead.
My beef is with Billy. You're going to sit there and talk all kinds of smack in the comments section. Where are you at, Billy? I want to hear you. Come here. Where are you at?
Wow. We're getting a throwdown here.
Can I call that match?
From Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, slinging some beef.
My beef is that I'm going to enjoy a ton of beef tonight because I'm going to Rios. I'm going to the steakhouse, and I'm going to enjoy some beef.
Turn that green card over, sir, and never turn it the other way. Quinn, what's your beef?
My beef is with teams claiming they're champions when they're not. Plain and simple. You didn't win. You're not a champion. Deal with it.
Okay, Jeff.
Mine is schools limiting themselves for coverage and making your program better by getting more coverage out there.
Respect. EB.
Interesting one. I could go a couple different ways today, but I'm gonna keep it simple, man. My beef is people who talk out of both sides of your mouth. If you're gonna agree with something or you're gonna back something, back it. If you're not, then stick your ground. There's room for both, but you're allowed to disagree with people. You're allowed to have your own opinion, but don't be one of those people who try to vet out information and agree with them, then turn around and then talk shit on the other side. So don't talk out of both sides of your mouth.
Respect. I would like to throw a beef out to anybody that limits Wi-Fi in any capability. Wi-Fi is something you pay for, and it is plentiful. Don't limit it. I mean, only good can happen unless somebody's on a bad website. So if you're limiting Wi-Fi in any capability, you're a scumbag, as my good buddy Jeff would say. Guys, any last comments before we head out for the Thursday edition of the Power Hour?
Don't be a creep, man. Don't be a creep.
Eat more beef.
Eat more beef. That's going to do it. Join us tomorrow, 3 to 4, right here on the YSN Power Hour. Until next time, so long, everybody.